Pokemon is a game all about exploration, whether that be the exploration for every Pokemon in the region, the exploration for every item, or exploring every inch of the game's map. This is a world where it seems like with every turn you take, there's always something new to throw you off. And I think that's one of the biggest charms of the series. You can play the same Pokemon game over and over for years, and yet it always feels like there's something you've never seen before that just wows you. That brings me to what I want to talk about today, the many places in Pokemon that just exist. Those random caves, buildings, or structures that are placed in out-of-the-way locations that only true completionists could discover. There are places that are completely unrelated to the main story. Some of them seem to have no purpose at all. Today, let's go on the other side of the road and explore the unexplored, because, as it turns out, sometimes the most fascinating sights are the ones you never take a look at. Let's start this video with a location that's actually pretty worth checking out, but you likely skip it every playthrough. In the Sinnoh games, on Route 205, there's the Valley Windworks, which is significant because it's where you have your first notable Team Galactic battle. However, I'm pretty sure a lot of you don't really visit, or even have heard of, the second works location, the Fuego Ironworks. In order to access it, you have to surf across the river on the left side. The thing is, by the time you get surf, you have zero reason to be here. To make things worse, it's never alluded to by anyone, so the only way you'd ever find it is either through sheer luck or a guide. I guess it makes the discovery of it all the more exciting though. Being an optional location, there isn't anything super important to do here. It's just a huge arrow tile maze that has a bunch of items littered on the ground. However, you do get the flamethrower TM at the very end, which is a pretty great reward, as well as a firestone, which isn't very great. Also, to the south of the Ironworks is the northern entrance to Floraroma Meadow. So if you were ever wondering how to access that part for some reason, now you know. I think the most ironic thing is that despite being a hot iron factory, in Diamond and Pearl, there are no fire types to be found. In Platinum, they thankfully included Magmar, but it just baffles me how Game Freak went as far as to make a Fire-type Elite Four member and a Fire-themed area, and still didn't get the memo to include more Fire types. I don't know, Diamond and Pearl were just weird. Either way, the Fuego Ironworks is a nifty little side location that offers a valuable reward for those curious enough to find it. Similarly to the Fuego Ironworks, here's another location that contains a TM. However, unlike the Ironworks, the only purpose for this place's existence is for that TM. I'm talking about the Scorched Slab. Sounds like a cool name, right? Probably the home to a powerful legendary. Well, sort of. It depends on which game you play. In the original Gen 3 games, it's a lone, easy-to-miss cave on Route 20, right after beating Winona. Inside the cave is, well, a single tiny room with one item, the TM for Sunny Day. No wild Pokemon, no more items, or any purpose at all. Thankfully, in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, they realized that a cave called the Scorched Slab should probably have something cooler. It was expanded to have multiple floors, actual wild Pokemon, and have Heatran lurking at the bottom. I think this is a cool case of Game Freak taking a very clearly underdeveloped location and giving it some much needed flavor, something that should be done a lot more with the remakes. Ocean routes are often overlooked or skimmed through, which is interesting because I feel like getting surf is one of the highlights of your adventure. One generation in particular, though, is notable for its slight abundance of water areas, of course, being Hoenn. I'm fairly certain you never really took the time to fully explore all of Hoenn's oceans, which I wouldn't blame you, since it's half of the region, and most of the ocean routes are just that, endless water and tentacool. One of the few structures in Hoenn that some of you probably have explored, though, is the abandoned ship, located halfway between Dewford and Slateport. This place is notable for two things. One, it contains the TM for Ice Beam, which is nice if you don't want to spend an hour gambling, And 2, it's home to this one trainer who can walk through walls for some reason. However, there's actually a second part to this ship that a lot of players probably missed. In the bottom floor, there are a few tiles you can dive under, but there's a huge gap between when you can first explore the ship and when you obtain the HM for dive. So by the time you can dive, you've probably already forgotten about this small diving point. If you did remember though, you'd be able to access a secret part of the ship that, a few keys later, would unlock the mysterious door you probably noticed earlier, revealing the scanner. By returning it to Slateport, you can receive either a deep sea tooth or deep sea scale, depending on your choice, which is the only way to obtain either of these items in Gen 3. Obviously, Clamperl isn't a fantastic Pokemon to use, but regardless, the Abandoned Ship's secret side quest is one of the cool ways Gen 3 hid some exclusive items. I don't think we can talk about out-of-the-way locations without talking about the Sevi Islands. This unique group of 7 islands was added in Fire Red and Leaf Green to give Kanto a proper postgame, then never seen again. It's honestly pretty bizarre how, outside of the remakes and Emerald, Pokemon has never mentioned these islands. It's like they forgot about them. Despite their existence being an enigma though, they contain one of the most interesting landscapes in the game, with the latter 3 islands specifically having some very long routes. At the very top corner of 5 Island is Lost Cave, which, as its name suggests, is a seemingly endless maze of identical rooms, similar to Turnback Cave in Sinnoh. The difference being that instead of a legendary being found at the end, you just get a few instances and rare candies. Kind of a pointless headache, but things get even weirder on 7 Island. Where at the very bottom of a long, mountainous path lie the Tenobi Ruins, 7 mysterious chambers that are the only way to catch Unknown in Gen 3. Besides that though, these chambers serve no other purpose, even though they look like they should be hiding something more. But if you want to get even weirder, on 6 Island lies the infamous Altering Cave. After a long trip from the main city to the very top of the ocean, you'll find this lonely cave that just exudes mystique. There's gotta be something special here, right? You walk inside, take a few steps, and then Zubat. Yes, the only thing this cave has to offer are low-leveled Zubat. Of course, we all know now that this cave was supposed to have a range of Johto Pokemon through events and got scrapped. But can you imagine somebody playing the game blindly and seeing this? As it stands, Altering Cave has got to be one of the biggest insults to any player. But still, despite being strange, pretty much pointless locations, I think they add a lot of life and intrigue to one of the most mysterious post-games in the series. Okay, here's one that's on the newer side. Just north of Route 12 in Pokemon X and Y is Azure Bay, a small ocean route that doesn't lead anywhere. The bay itself has some pretty good stuff, such as the TM for X-Scissor, the Deep Sea Tooth, and Ampharosite, but what's important is the small cave in the northern part, Sea Spirit's Den. Upon entering, there's nothing, just a tiny room with no wild encounters or items. Seems like a common trend this video. So what is the purpose of this cave? Well, once you've beaten the game, you might have remembered randomly encountering one of the legendary birds a few times, which is based off of the starter you chose. However, unlike other roaming legendaries, the battle never actually starts, they just flee immediately. Well, this is what the Sea Spirit Den is for. For some odd reason, they decided to make you encounter the legendary bird a whopping 10 times before you're actually able to fight it. Only then will it settle down in the den, letting you catch it. The thing is, if you were playing the game casually, you would have no clue that you had to encounter it 10 times first, and then return to this isolated cave. In fact, most people probably never played enough past the main story to even reach 10 encounters, due to the limited postgame X and Y has. It's definitely not on the level of weirdness as the Reggie Trio, but the Sea Spirit Den is up there, as far as oddly specific legendary encounters. This one's less of a legit place in the game and more so an interesting bit of trivia, and some of you guys probably already know about it, but I thought it fit well in an unusual location video. In the Gen 3 games, there are 3 houses that have a back room blocked by 2 boxes. If you're not the type of person to explore every house and talk to everyone, you might have missed them. But if you have seen them before, it might have made you believe that there was some secret post-game mission. But no matter how far you progressed, those holes would stay forever shut. So what gives? Well, these rooms were supposed to be part of an e-reader event, but were ultimately scrapped and replaced with other battle towers in their respective games. Interestingly, all traces of their intended function were removed in international versions of the games, but the tiles were never replaced for some reason. And if you use a walkthrough walls cheat or remove the boxes, the door doesn't lead anywhere. The Hoenn remix did give the Moss Deep City door a purpose, allowing you to access special secret bases of the developers, but the other 2 sadly never made an appearance again, leaving them as one of the strangest and most pointless features in any Pokemon location. Finally, I want to talk about a place that I straight up didn't know existed until about a month ago, which is crazy because it's in my favorite generation, Gen 5. Do you remember all of those piers in Castelia City? Some of the ships could be ridden, with the most well-known one taking you to Liberty Garden, letting you catch Victini in the original black and white. In another pier, you can take the Royal Unova after beating the game, which lets you battle some trainers and get rare items. However, I recently learned that there's a third ship that can take you to another place, possibly the most obscure place in all of Unova, Unity Tower. You can only access the island after making an international trade, which would give you access to the tower. And after making that trade, the game lets you embark on one of the wildest side quests in any Pokemon game. Each outside country you trade with unlocks a new floor, with a total of 131 floors representing every country recognized by the game, which includes some really out there places like Greenland and the Congo. That's a pretty big ask. Essentially, each floor acts as a permanent memory of that wireless interaction, no matter if it was 15 years ago or yesterday. I guess this place is official confirmation that their world is our world and that real-life countries are a thing in Pokemon. Unfortunately, the only way to access this place now is by either using a third-party server or trading with someone on a physical DS. So the chances of anyone accessing, let alone completing, this tower are close to none. And if you have ever completed the Unity Tower, I think you make a good case for being one of the most dedicated Pokemon players of all time. But even if completing it is near impossible nowadays, I still love the thought behind it. And this is one of the things that makes me love Pokemon so much. No matter where you turn, no matter how many times you play the same story over and over, even when you think you've seen it all, there's always something that tells you, no, you haven't. Regardless of how pointless or out of the way Unity Tower and all of the other locations may seem, I think the true reward is the journey, the excitement of seeing something brand new, no matter how small or insignificant. Because sometimes the most memorable sights are the ones you never think you'd take a look at.